Got it. Welcome to the Adobe Users Group. This group meets once a month, the second Thursday, most months of the year. The second Thursday of the month from 6 to 8. We talk everything Adobe. We have a website, and I forget the name.
It's the Austin Adobe
Austin
User
Adobe,
Group.com.
Austin Adobe,
Austin Adobe
Adobe
User
Group,
Group.com.
usersgroup.com. I always forget that.
User singular.
Yeah, I have bookmarks. So anyway, we do talk everything Adobe. Tonight, I'm gonna be talking about what's new in Photoshop 2024. There's a lot of new features in Photoshop that you can take advantage of, and the program is getting easier and easier to use for the average person. I've been using Photoshop for about 20 years now, I think, and every year it gets better and better, new tools. And what I'm gonna do tonight is show you the old way of doing things and a new way so you can have a better appreciation of, wow, man, that is easier. So we're going to look at both. This is what you used to do, and this is what you can do now with the new features that are available inside of Adobe Photoshop 2024. Now, you may have to download the latest and greatest version of Photoshop, and then some features are only available in the beta version. So there's two versions. There's the Photoshop version that you might have with a Creative Cloud, and then there's a beta version if you want to get some additional features that have not been released to the public. So, for example, the parametric filters as smart filters, I think is only available in the beta version, which probably won't be covering tonight. But there's a lot of things I want to cover, and again, I'm going to show both the before and after ways of doing it. So with that in mind, let me share my screen.
Cornelius, may I ask you a question? If something's in beta, that means it cannot be used for any commercial work?
No, I don't think so. I think just use it at your own risk.
Ah,
Yeah, you can
okay.
still use it. So let me figure out which one of these screens I'm looking at. I think it's this one.
It's got a green icon.
Oh, shift to like that.
Okay, we're seeing your screen come up now.
Okay, then let me switch to Photoshop. Can you guys see Photoshop?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So let me move some of these things. I have two monitors, so I'm looking at my notes on one monitor, the chat, and the video feed. So, okay, so what we're going to be talking about is several new features in Photoshop. So the first feature I want to talk about is what we refer to as the remove tool. But before I do that, let me show you the old way we used to do things. If you've been using Photoshop for some time, you know there's this concept of content-aware fill, right? And so the way you used to do this was real tedious, I may add. But let me just see if I can do it with this particular project. So in the old days, we would use the quick select tool and try to select. Hold on just a second. Make sure I'm on the right tool. So you try to select the object that you want to remove, right? And then you got to go around and then refine the edges and all that craziness. For example, you might get this done and you got to go there, and it's obviously hard to get the hair, but for the sake of time, I'm not worrying about getting too much into the weeds, if you will, in this case, the hair, to select everything. But you basically make a selection, then you expand on that selection, right? So you go to select, and then you got to go to modify, expand selection. And hold on just a second. Did I not get the face? Wait, hold on. Let me remove that. I had some other selections going on in the face. So let's go and do a select, modify, expand the selection. And then you can tell it the number of pixels that you wanted it to grow, if expand, if you will. And if I click OK, you're going to see that it expand a little bit. You see how it's going outside of my current selection? So that's what we used to have to do. And then once you do that, then you can do the content aware fill. Now, again, you can do all kind of stuff with this. And this is what it's going to do. Now, you can see it didn't do a perfect job, but it did remove some of the, most of the object in this image. You could go in and refine the edges. and different things like that. But for the sake of time, I'm gonna click OK to commit that, and then we Control D to deselect. And you can see that got most of it. I could probably go in again, clean up the hair, right? So that's what we used to have to do. Let me do Control Z to undo this, and Control D to deselect to get back to the original image. Now we're going to use the newer technique of doing things. And so when you open up an image, you get this what they call contextual taskbar. If you go up to Window, contextual taskbar, that's this window right here, this little thing. Now it changes based upon what you're doing. We'll see that quite a bit tonight. But what is nice is it knows what you're doing, so it gives you the appropriate menu, what we call contextual menus, if you will. In this case, because I don't have anything selected, it gives me the option to either select a subject or remove the background. Because typically those are the two things you want to do with most images, if you will. And there's some other things you could do as well. We'll look at this in a bit. But for right now, let's select this image. And if I do that, it's going to examine that image and figure out, what is the object I think that person is wanting to remove, right? Or to select in this case. And it's with one click, I was able to select that object in that image of this person. And then you could go in and either hit the delete key, right? Delete that person. If you do Control Z, you can undo it. And then you could invert the image. So if you do select invert that selection. Now, if I hit delete again, it's going to delete the background, right? So that's one way to get rid of the background. But there's an easier approach than that. So those are the techniques that we used to use to do, select an object, delete the object, or delete the image, or a combination thereof. Well, with this new technique, Control D, let me unselect that. There's a new tool in Photoshop called the Remove tool. How cool is that? Okay. Now, in previous versions of Photoshop, you would have to kind of select and do like this to remove an object. You had to kind of select everything, right? To remove it. Now, obviously, there's nothing there to remove, but you had to kind of paint over the whole object in order to remove it. Now, all you have to do, let me just make this cursor, not the cursor, but this brush smaller. Watch this. I'm going to just literally do a rough selection around this object. It's going to fill in the blanks for me, and then it's going to remove it. How cool is that? So let's do that. So watch, I'm going to just do this. Try to get close as possible to what I want to remove. How many of you with a little effort you think you can do this?
Yeah.
You think you can trace like that? Remember back when you was in first grade, Okay, how many of you think you could do that?
That's about my skill level now.
I don't know. First grade was a long time ago.
I know, yeah, for me too. But look at that. How good is that?
Wow.
So all I had to do was trace around the image roughly, mind you. Back in the old days, you had to make a perfect. I remember, I never forget one guy. Let me do Control Z. He literally would spend hours. You hear me? I'm not exaggerating. Making a selection with the pen tool and then converting that stroke into a selection and then modifying it. Literally, this is a piece of cake. I'm doing this
figuratively.
How easy is that?
I'd say it's proof that we're much better off than we were 4 years ago.
Okay. How many? I usually tease my students with this, right? How many of you with a little effort think you can do that? One of my little Chopinism, right?
Hey,
isn't that cool or not?
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
And I removed stuff for years. So I want you to try something though. Let's see what we can do with the shadow. If we can remove the shadow on the.
Oh, good thinking, John.
You're stealing my thunder there.
Oh, sorry.
Boy, I didn't even notice the shadow. Beautiful.
What about this? Well, let's take it a step further.
You can get rid of the waves.
I can get rid of anything. Okay, so I don't know why it's not processing that one.
What did you select?
Oh, there we go. It took a little while, but
wow. Oh,
that
that's
cool?
crazy.
Is that cool or not?
Cool.
Yep.
I just,
That is a really cool tool. So you saw the old way of doing things. You had to do, make a selection, expand a selection, and then figure out what you wanted to do, right? Literally, you could draw around something to do it.
that's
So
crazy.
you can select the subject. It knows, it examines the image. AI, you're familiar with AI, right? Not Adobe Illustrator, but artificial intelligence, right? And decide, yeah, I think that's what I want that person. That is what I want to select out of that image. In this case, that person. Now, what if I want to remove the background? Again, we did the same thing back in the old days, and I'm gonna do this quickly with this tool. We would select the subject first, right? Again, we would use a quick select tool or something like that to select the subject. And then we would invert the selection because right now, if I hit delete, again, it's going to delete the person, right? Not what I want to do. I want to delete the background. So you got to invert the selection. So you go up here and do select, invert, or use these keyboard combination, and it's going to invert the selection. By the way, you have an inverted selection when you see a selection of the object and the marching ants outside of the object around the canvas. That's when you know your selection has been inverted. Question. I thought someone had a question. So now, John, you had a question, Marty?
I
Yeah.
hadn't verbalized it, but I do.
Okay.
I recently had a photograph of a client in a museum behind a sculpture, and there was a person sitting in a chair behind them, which had to be removed. So my question is, could this remove an object and fill in the surrounding area?
It can't. It doesn't always get it perfect. It
Uh-huh.
can. I had a picture of a person with the hand over the face, and I just did just a generative fill on that, and it removed the hand, but it painted the face.
Cool.
That's crazy.
Okay.
So yeah, sometimes it's not always perfect, but it may or may not get it. Okay. In this case, old school is we would make a selection and then we hit the delete key to delete the background. That's what we do in the old days. When I say the old days, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
All right, we do Command D. Now watch this. How many of you, again, with a little effort, think you can do this? If I want to remove the background, I'm not doing all that mess, okay? I'm gonna click on this button right here. You guys see that? Remove
What does
background.
it say?
Remove background. Okay, guess what that does? Anybody?
I bet it has something to do with the background.
And remove a love.
Give me a hard time. It's going to remove the background. So let the magic begin. How cool is that? Is that not cool or not?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now again, it's not perfect. You might have to go in and kind of refine the edges right here and there. But for starters, that's great. Okay. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna do
I
Control
did a
Z
great
to
job on
undo
her
it.
hair too.
Yeah, and so you can kind of clean up some things. Because I don't know what this is right here. It's like green right here. I don't know. That was part of the original image though. But the bottom line is literally one click away from removing the background.
Yeah.
I
Did it
noticed
remove parts
that
of
most
her left foot?
programs say that again.
Is part of her left foot missing? I see white spots on it.
No, that's just some. I don't know if that's water, whatever. Again, the original image
Like
has all.
reflections.
I think that's reflection
wet.
of water. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what that.
She's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I was wondering what that was too, because a lot of this here and there.
But you could probably use the healing brush to
Yeah.
get rid of that if you wanted.
You could. Now, so that's the remove tool. I mean, so anytime you want to remove something, you can literally just draw around it and it's going to remove it. I mean, that is too cool. Now, there's another type of selection tool, a new tool that they've added. I'm not a big fan of it, but let me just show you and tell you what it is. It's called the brush selection tool. So let me see if I can find it. I'm not a big fan of it. It actually has a quick, if you're familiar with quick mask, right? In fact, let me just do a quick mask to show you how that works. So if I select the subject by whatever means, right? If you hit the Q key, you go into quick mask mode, right? And what you see is a quick mask that's been applied to that object. A quick mask is basically a visible selection. Unlike the selection tool, you kind of wonder what's selected and what's not selected. Well, when you click the Q key or the quick mask, it gives you a visual, you see what's in red, right? If I hit the delete key, well, let me get out of this first and hit the delete. What's in red is protected. And what's not in red gets deleted. I hit the delete key, right? Now, if I inverted the selection, let me do quick mask again. If I hit let me hit the Q key to get the selection and then invert the selection again, and then hit the delete key, I get the background removed, right? So that's the quick mask, the Q key, to get to basically to see the selection. That's what the quick key does. Quick mask do for you. And that's just, by the way, this is that same icon right here. So you either hit the Q key or click on this little icon right here, and that's a quick mask. So quick mask is particularly useful when you want to see the selection in order to modify it with black and white. Because, so for example, see, right, and John knows the golden rule of masking, right? Black conceals,
White reveals.
white reveals. Okay, so if I paint right now, let me just do something crazy like that. Now, let me do Control Z. Let me see what I want to do. So I'm in the inverted mode. So let me do select invert. So I got just that selection. So this is the selection. If I hit the Q key, right? And notice I got black and white. If I use my brush tool, right? Let me bump up the thing so you can see it better, make it really big. Now, if I paint, notice I could paint away from that mask, that quick mask, right? Now, if I
You're
get
removing the mask.
I'm removing a portion of the mask, right? By painting on it, right? Now, if I get out of that, hit the Q key again, or click on that little icon right there, either one, you're going to see not only was that girl selected, but also the area that I painted. See, now so I have two selections, right? So the quick mask will create a mask quickly, is the term. Okay. Now, what if I say I made a mistake? I didn't want to do that. I'm gonna hit the X key. Very important key to keep your hand on when using Photoshop. This will toggle the black and white foreground and background color. So notice when I'm gonna flash it at you there. Notice I'm flashing the black and white over in the corner right here. Now, if I paint with black, I want to add back to the selection.
So pressing the X key toggles you between black and white.
Right, exactly. So that's what
Well, I think technically it toggles between the foreground and background colors that are.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The better stated is because it could be any color, right? But typically when you're doing mask, you're doing black and white, right? No, that's right.
Yeah.
It's fresh off the press, yeah. Okay, so there you have it. Now, let's look at the new technique of the modern version of the quick mask. I'm gonna do a Q to get out of this, and I'm gonna do Control D, another key to remember in Photoshop, because you do it all the time. You have to deselect things, right? Not D, because that's gonna give you the default black and white colors, but Control D or Command D will deselect. Okay, so if you use this new tool, which again, I'm so used to the quick mask, but this is something, I don't know, I guess you could use right here, and that's the adjustment brush. Let me see if I can find it.
Would you please, when you find it, read the words? They're very hard
I
to see.
I will. Let me see, what's the name of it? Brush selection tool is what I'm looking for. Oh, there it is, selection brush tool. So that's what this says right here. Selection brush tool. It's right under with the other selection tools, the lasso, the polygon tool, and the magnetic lasso tool. All the lasso tools are in here. Now, with the selection brush tool, ooh, that's a big cursor, a big, can you see that? That's my senior citizen version of that cursor. I tell people I can say that now, John.
My uncle said a thing. He's like, I can tell I'm old now because I no longer get carded for the senior discount.
My wife was talking to this lady, and she's about she old, a lot older. She's older than my wife, and like 65. And but the lady was talking to her mother, and she was asking the mother, "Mom, what do I need to know when I get old?" She said, "Depend." She said, "Depend about what?" She's talking about depend, diapers.
Oh,
She said, depend on what? I
that's
was
fine.
dying laughing. Anyway, so now that I have the selection brush tool selected, I can literally paint the quick mask. So right here, notice I can literally paint a quick mask. Now, by the way, the opacity right now is at 60%. Let's do 100 so you can see it better. So you can literally now just paint a selection. Now, if you get out of that, you got your selection. So you can literally now paint your selection. There are times where you may want to do that. I'm so used to making a selection first, and then creating a selection. But there are times where you may want to or may need to do that. But that's a new tool in Photoshop. It's called the brush selection tool, similar to the quick mask.
Mhm.
Now the advantage of it too, though, is it allows you to. Let me just show you this, which is one of the things that I like about it. I guess particularly for beginners, maybe not so much for myself, is that if you paint at 100%, right, and then get out of that, and then I do a let's say I got a selection there, and I want to what I want to do. Let's do a let's see if I come over here. Let's fill it with black. So you see it fill that selection with black. But if I do Control D, let's do that again.
Am I hearing you say Control D or Control Z to undo?
Control Z to undo.
Okay, I misheard
So
you.
I use that selection tool again, but this time I'm going to decrease the opacity of the mask that I'll be drawing, the quick mask, right? If I do that again, I'm going to do it right here so you can kind of see this better, right? If I do that now and then go over here, by the way, we'll talk more about these options right here, but this is a new way of doing it without having to remember the keyboard combination and then fill it with black and white and other stuff. So if I fill it with black now, notice that's semi-transparent. So I get a transparent mask, right? Remember, black conceals, white reveals. Gray area, anything between black and white, will be semi-transparent. And that'll be half, but it'll be somewhat transparent, right? So you could get a semi-transparent mask by using a lower value for its opacity. Okay.
For what would you use a semi-transparent mask?
When you want to reveal, kind of give a tint to something, and you want to be able to see underneath that object, right? Just like let's say I wanted to, just like what I did here, I wanted to create a magnifying glass right here, but I want to be able to, a glass, let's say, but I want to be able to see what's on the other side of that glass, right? It needs to be transparent in order for me to see through it. If it was opaque, I wouldn't be able to see through it, right? So if
Gotcha.
you make it transparent, it allows you to see what we call the underlying layer, right?
Mhm.
And if I do that again like that, you can see, I can still see her arm right there, but I can still see the mask. So it shows through to the underlying layer, and that's what semi-transparent mask can help you with.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so let's see. Now let's talk about this fancy bar right here, which I'm really now again there's a lot of things in here that you can do, and it changes based upon what you're doing. So we're going to talk about each one of them in turn. We saw earlier how to select the subject. by the way, there's other options over here, right? That you can do that. Let me see if I can move this thing out of my way. Can I move this? Yeah. So you can see you can select and mask. So there's different ways to make a select a subject, or you can select object. You can select. Let me see if I can find the. A lot of tools in here now. No, you got the content of where you got all kind of tools that allows you to select the subject. They've changed it up a little bit, but basically now all you have to do is once you get into Photoshop, the select subject is the first thing you're going to see on this content context, what is called. What I'll do. On this contextual taskbar, right? It's going to always be select subject. We saw how to do that. We saw how to remove the background. Now, another important key that you learn in Photoshop is the transform key. I mean, the transform tool, right? Control T, Command and Control T should be your friend, right? And so you don't have to do that anymore because that's another option that's available on this thing. If I click here, notice this whole canvas is selected, and I could, I can scale it, rotate it, whatever I want to do. Okay. So any kind of transformation, scale, rotate, skew, all that fun stuff, and the type of transformation that you want to do, you could do it. Not only that, once you hit the Control T, it gives you additional options. And I kind of like this because, for beginners, you got to kind of figure out, do I go over here? Do I go over here to do stuff? Once you hit Control T, it gives you the option for transformation. Now, what kind of transformation can you do? Well, let's look at it. You can rotate counterclockwise. That's the little tooltip. So if I do that, notice it rotated counterclockwise. I can keep rotating it, right? And then this rotate clockwise, right? So you keep flipping it. And then this will flip the image. Notice hand in this direction. If I do this, it's going to flip it right in the center there. Notice it flipped it the other way. Then I could flip it across the vertical axis, right? So if I click it again, I can flip it upside down. Okay. And then you could do cancel or done. Now, by the way, another thing they've done is you can move this little thing around, this contextual taskbar, and you can pin it. So let me just get out of this. I'm gonna hit cancel. And you can select this pin option, pin bar position, and it basically will pin it to that location until you move it again. Now, once you get out of Photoshop and get back in, it's going to remember that location. So that's good. And that way it's not all over the place every time you want to do something. But you can move it at any time. But that basically pin it to that location until you move it again. You can hide it as well. You can reset the bar position. I don't know what that does.
If you didn't pin it, what would be different? I mean, doesn't it always stay where you leave it?
I think once you get out and get back in, it might put it over here, down there.
A default position for opening the program.
It kind of pins it. But again, at any time, if you grab this little handle right here, you can move it. So we're talking about the select subject button. You saw how easy that was. One click away, thank you. Remove background, one click away, thank you. Transform, one click away, thank you. Did I say thank you enough?
Yes. Now, does this mean that you can select the subject and transform just the subject? Like turn the woman around and leave the beach where it is?
Let's do that. I like that. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, I'm gonna select the subject. Now, obviously, I gotta get off the background, right? So what I could do is Command J, right? And notice she's on her own layer, right? Now, because she's on her own layer, and I do transform, now I can rotate her, maybe do it like that. Now the bottom, the point is that I did Control J. Let me turn her off. She's still on that other layer, right? So I really needed to cut her to that other layer, not But I could erase her from this layer easily, right? So again, you know how to do that. We saw that earlier, right? I can come over here and remove, select subject. Actually, not select subject. Remember, we got the new tool. I love it. Remove tool. How cool is that? I love that. Okay, let's do that. Let's move her first. Again, there's several ways of doing this, okay? But obviously I want to move her out of that image. I put her up on this layer right here. So it's removing that object. Now, if I turn this layer back on, I got her doing a little flip there. And if I did Control T again, if I select, always select the right layer, right? Otherwise I'd be rotating the background. And then I can rotate her however I want. We're doing a little spin there. Okay.
I think you can also, like, if you hold control and move one of those corners like you're over, doesn't that also, you know, twist it?
You could, see, so
Okay.
going down the command key, and I could skew it,
Yeah, come here.
I could do, all kind of crazy stuff like that. Or you could rotate it, right? Any kind of transformation, resize, right? Rotate, skew, anything you get in here, scale, rotate, skew, distort, perspective, any kind of transformation that you want, a warp, right? And you could, you can go crazy, rubber band man, right? So you basically have control over whatever you want to do with that image. Again, I popped her on that new layer. Notice she's on a layer by herself. Again, it's always selecting the object you want, pop it on another layer, and then manipulating it however you need to. But the good news is this is so much easier to do. Huh?
She looks so happy to be on her own layer.
Okay, so that's so we did select, we did remove. Now this is the adjustment layer. Okay, so if you wanted to change, let's say I want to make the background, let me select the background. Again, always select the right layer, right? Because the layer that is selected is the layer that gets affected.
Gets affected.
Okay, so I'm gonna select the background. If I want to make it black and white, so I'm gonna select adjustment layer, black and white, bam. So I got a black and white with a splash of color. Okay, what I call it. And you see that quite often. Well, I don't know if you see it quite often, but you do see images that are with a black, white background with the object in color or vice versa, right? So that's what that option does. Okay, so we saw that. You could subtract from the mask, add to the mask. Again, we won't go into too much detail about that. A little bit more advanced. And then just hover over this. You see some other option, modify mask feathering and density. Again, that's an advanced concept. So maybe we could talk about some of the masking techniques here later. But the bottom line is you literally click away from doing a whole lot of things that you used to have to kind of go over here, go up here. When you do the transformation, let me, what is that saying to me? A participate enable closed captioning. I don't know what that is. Okay, so let me go Z out of that. What did I do? Oh, I think I might have generated. Yeah, what I did. Ooh, look at that. That's interesting. If you don't put anything in the prompt, it's going to remove the background or whatever you have selected, and I'll show you that in a bit too.
What do you mean by if you put something in the prompt? You lost me.
Okay, when you're doing that generative AI,
Uh-huh.
let me go here. Excuse me. If I wanted to remove something, first of all, make a selection, and then I'm gonna use the lasso tool. Let me get to the lasso tool. So let's say I wanted to remove this shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
if I just draw around it, if I don't put anything here in its generative field, prompt, this is what I was referring to as a prompt. Let me do that again. Let's see, make a selection there. If I don't put anything here, when I click generate, it's just going to remove that, similar to what we did earlier with the remove tool, remember? And you can see up here, it's doing this. See, remove background to separate the subject. So it's telling you a better way to do that. And this was taking quite some time to do, right? So if you don't put anything in the prompt, it's going to remove, it's going to do what we used to do with the content aware field, right? Now, if you want to add an object to the scene, you just draw a rough, because I can't draw myself. Draw a rough selection, typically the size of the object that you want it to be, and let's do a I don't know, bird. And again, I'm being just general. Again, you could get really descriptive on the type of bird and all that stuff, but I'm gonna just do a bird. Okay, now you can get real specific, with a lot of adjectives and all that stuff. But for the sake of time, let's just make it easy. Keep it simple for the student. KISS, right? Bird, and hit generate, and watch my bird show up right here. There you go. Okay, so I don't know where this little cursor coming from. Okay, by the way, and something else that it does too, I don't know if you can notice, I don't know if you noticed that or not, but it didn't do a good job of the background behind the bird. You guys see that?
It looks darker.
Yeah, it is. So I could, select, different options. And if I don't like any of these, I can go in and click the generate. And this is new. You can click generate again, and it's going to create 3 more variations. Okay, so if I click it again, notice it's processing it. And it's going to give me 3 more iterations. And I can select any one of the 6 or 9 or 12. So I have that one, I have that one, and then the previous 3 that I did. If I click it again, is it going to give me 3 more?
I like how too it's the birds it's generating are seem to be appropriate for the environment versus
Seagulls.
a cardinal and a robin, but
Yeah.
you're just using the word bird.
Right. And I guess you could specify the type of bird.
But I'm just saying it's it knows what kind of birds should go in that environment. It looks like
It knows it's a seashore and it chooses a seabird.
right.
So if I draw this one, let's see if I do an eagle. And it should put an eagle, right? You would think. So you see that's what it did. And it's, again, different iterations of that. And then, by the way, when it does that, it automatically creates these little, what they call AI layers with a mask next to them. So basically, you could turn these off as well. So it's not etching concrete on the image, on the original image. And as you know, you've heard me say this 1,000 times, you should never destroy your original image. Everything should be stacked on top of your original image. Process a term that's called non-destructive editing, right? And
Yeah.
John, you know about that, right?
Yeah, well, one of the things I got, there's one thing I literally got from you, and I just do it anytime I open up anything in Photoshop. The first thing I do is hit Command or Control J, just always. So my original layer is always there. Yeah, just like that.
And notice I did that before the start of this session.
Yeah, I know you did it. You didn't even say anything. It was natural. You just did it. So.
Yeah, because you do not. And an analogy I give of that, and you can appreciate this, is that what if you had a photographer at your wedding, and you gave them your pictures to modify and clean up, and and they messed up all your images, right? That would not be a good thing. I would not be a happy camper, right? You gave if I gave a photographer my wedding pictures and they jacked it up, without non-destructive editing, and after you do that, you can't get it back, right? I would not be a happy camper.
I have a story for you. This was like 1995. I was working in Dallas at Video Post and Transfer, huge post house. And the client said to me, hey, do you have that thing that we said we'd never need again? And I said, no. But that was the only time that ever happened in my entire career. So I oversave. I keep, we're never going to need that again. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it over here in the hold folder then, or whatever,
right.
because of what happened once.
I can imagine. So let's look at some other things we can do with this taskbar, if you will. Let me just delete all of these other layers. Again, they're just right there, and they can just drag them to the trash. One lady said a cupcake down at the bottom there. It was actually a trash can, but she thought it was a cupcake. Obviously, she was hungry. So let's look at some other content-aware features that you can. We talked about the adjustment layers. Now you click here. We talked about that as well. You can look at a little video if you want to. You can do that as well. So let's.
The contextual taskbar in Photoshop is an incredibly convenient feature that offers a.
So you can look at that video later. Now, when you're using the shape tool, let's use the shape tool. Now, again, these are all a different what we call primitive shape, right? The rectangle or square, elliptical, triangle, polygon, line, and a custom shape. So if you took the shape tool, if you draw out a shape, back in the old days, you had to kind of go up here and change, the color, the fill color, the stroke width, and all that up there, right? You could go over here and do it, and you still can. But now, look, once you create a shape, it's right there, giant on the spot for you. How cool is that? Okay, so if I wanted to change the color, the fill color, bam. If I want to change the stroke, because you can't see the stroke because it's 1 pixel, let me bump it up so you can give you my senior citizen view of it. Bump up the stroke, and then let's change the stroke color, something like, I don't know. Let's do white so you can see it. Okay. You can change the radius right here, or you could just like in Illustrator and most other programs, you could pull that and pull out the radius on that object. And then you can draw some additional shapes, right? And do whatever you want with those shapes. And I'm not sure what this option does. I guess it highlights this thing over here to do some additional things with it. But basically, once you create an object, you're going to get all of the things you need to do with that object right there in that contextual, hence the term, contextual taskbar. So that's one thing. Again, you could also rotate, right, or transform that object in real time. Cancel out of that. So we're going to delete that shape. Okay, we saw how to use the transform tool. Again, if you got an object, cancel out of that. And do Control T, right, to select that object. Notice I get my transformation tool. So depending upon what tool you've selected will dictate what type of options you'll be able to perform for that object. Now, the good news is if you have a blank canvas, this is new, there's a new tool called right here. This is actually where you generate an image. So you click on this, you get this really big prompt. In fact, I'm gonna just use, for the sake of time, because I'm not that creative when it comes to writing stuff like this, but if, you could, what they call experiment, right? So you could start off with what they have.
you can browse for an image
Right.
that is a good starting point.
Exactly. And then change up the word as you need it to let me, what happened to my, okay, there we go.
Which tool have you selected? It looks like the shape
Okay,
tool.
so no, there's a new tool right here. I don't know. It's a teeny tiny. It's teeny tiny on my computer. So I know you guys can't probably even see it. It's called generate image.
Mm.
Okay. And there's a couple ways to get to it, but that's the easiest way to get to it. And it's new to the new version. So what this does is it allows you to create images based off text. Now, there's a couple things that you can let me see something that I like doing, maybe. Some inspirational stuff here. Oh, that looks interesting. Whatever that is. Motorcycle, laser, explode, design, hologram in 3D. Okay, so you could do either an art form or photograph, and then you can look up a reference image. So you could use another image. So it will use that image to kind of give you the style that you want. Since I don't have a reference image, I won't work. And then you can apply to various different types of effects. So you got a boatload of effects that you can apply to this image, from sketch to splatter to, you just got to really paint, line drawing, whatever you want. I mean, there's themes, there's movements, material, concepts,
I'm
effects,
just thinking of
technique.
the hours of time that this will eat up.
Well, I mean, most of the time,
I mean, yes, it's a time saver, but you could just get lost in
yeah,
playing.
you could, but and you typically don't, for me, I wouldn't be bothered with all of this. I'd do the defaults, and then hit the generate. So I just type something up here, say I want it to be a photo, and then like generate. That's what I would do, and it's going to generate an image based upon my prompt. Ooh, see that? How cool is that?
Ooh,
And
fancy.
like that one, you can get that one, or you can get that one. That's cool. And if you didn't like any of those, you can generate some more, as many as you like. Now, by the way, I think for some things there, you can only you have certain amount of credits in order to do things, right? Now, I forget what that amount is. Depending upon what do you have? If you got creative licensing of Creative Cloud, or if you just have, you know, different packages of Adobe products, but you have a certain amount of credits. And once you run out of credit, then it runs slower, what I've heard, or you could buy more credits. And I have another program that does something similar to that. But these are some additional examples. Now, if I had to do that myself, that would take me about a year to do. Okay. Just let you know. If I had to do something like that would take me a while to do. Thank you. That's
I have a
fantastic.
question about generative art and generating pictures. Would it be possible, and would it be, I guess the question is, morally acceptable, if you were to take, I'll give you an example. I support a website for people who do environmental protection, and they have found photographs of solar farms that they want to put on the website, but the photographs are copyrighted by somebody else. Could I say to take a picture of that is copyrighted and to generate an alternative to it so it would not be copyrighted?
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah. Now, what happens now is, and again, I hadn't done this, but I do have something in my notes where if you go to Window and do content credential, and this is in beta, okay, you could determine enable content credentials. Let me see if I can pull that out because it's real fine print. Let me see if I can read this to you. This file content will indicate missing edits or activities rather. Content credential will be applied to to work with generative AI. Anyway, it basically tell you if someone can open up an image in Photoshop and tell if it was AI generated. Let me say it like that. That's where I'm explaining. But if you took a reference image and created your own image from that, that's not copyright. That's just using maybe some of the styles from that image as a reference. But it's not, you're not using the whole image. You're just using the reference of that image. And I don't think that's a problem. But if someone opened it up in Photoshop, they can see whether or not it was generated via AI. And you can't uncheck that one.
Would they see that from a Photoshop file or from a JPEG?
They would see that from probably a JPEG file because this is metadata, right? Once you use AI, that information gets embedded into your file. So when you create a picture, there's a lot of information that you don't see in that picture, like the size, the width, the image size, the exposure, all that fun
maybe
stuff.
the location where you took it.
Yeah, location, all kind of stuff gets saved behind the scene, right? We call metadata. And so whether it was generated by AI also gets saved behind the scene. So anybody open up a JPEG, a PNG, or a GIF that was created with AI can open it up and see whether or not it was or not. And that's a good thing because you don't want people that are trying to incriminate you, you know, they say, you know, I saw you at the store stealing something. They put you in a picture of, you know, stealing at a store somewhere, right? Because you could do that. I could put you on the moon and you never been there, right? So yeah, so this will basically let someone know whether that image has been altered. And that's a good thing.
And you can't strip that from the image, can you?
No, no, I don't think. I mean, if you probably know how to get behind the zeros and ones of an image, you could probably do it, you know, and get to the metadata. But the average person's not going to know how to do that.
Because I thought in Photoshop that there was a way of exporting where you chose to include information about the camera or not.
That's probably with camera. What is it? Lightroom and stuff. Yeah. So that's probably a lot of things you can import and export from Lightroom, which is a cousin to Photoshop. I don't use Lightroom that much. In fact, I hadn't used it at all of late, but you probably could. So that's how you do that. So let's look at another one. How are we doing on time?
We're coming up on the hour.
Okay, well, I'm halfway through.
Oh, well, we might have a part 3. That's good.
I think that's what we need to do because I'm literally halfway through. But let me tease you one more thing, and then we can go.
Okay.
And that is on that generative field. I mean, we've probably seen this one before, and this is because this can be really useful. If you use the crop tool, using the C key, C for crop, right? And you expand the canvas, right? Now notice that image is this. It doesn't even have the person's face, right? I mean, the rest of the head and the bottom, right? So I'm gonna expand that out way like that. Now, back in the old days, you had to kind of go in and select all of this, you know, select this and select this and select this and select this. Now, all you have to do is just say generate. I think this will work. I don't know, is this the one? Let me see if it's, yeah, generative expand also works to expand patterns. So let's see if it's going to create the complete head.
Wow.
Whoa.
So let's.
What's interesting is that it put hair in.
Oh man. So let's do it one more time.
And body.
Isn't that crazy?
And antlers.
So did I click it? I think I did. Okay, let's do it one more time to see what happens.
Oh boy, the mouth looks
Lord.
pretty distorted.
Yeah, they kind of mess. Ooh, that doesn't look too
Uh-oh.
good right there.
AI never gets the teeth right.
But to be honest with you, I mean, I'm impressed by like this. I think this is a good one right here.
That's
Right?
amazing.
I mean, I might have to clean up some stuff here and there, but from just being able to add all of that extra, it's crazy to me.
Could you then remove the part of the mask that's over her nose? And
Well, let's just try that. So watch this. So I'm gonna use my lasso tool, and I am going to click this. Right? And then I'm gonna do that, and let's see what that does. I'm not sure if it's gonna get it right or not.
you're going to get this woman stoned to death.
Wait for it, wait for it. Wait
I
for it.
said you're going to get the woman
Oh.
stoned to death by removing her.
I know, huh? Well,
Her Habib.
maybe I didn't get it further enough, but
Yeah. I think you might have a partial opacity, and maybe that's why.
yeah, I don't know. Let me try that again. Man, look at them eyes, though. But it did a good job of bringing that nose in under the mask.
Absolutely.
Keep going, keep going. And put the mask back on it.
Change the pattern.
Anyway, it's not perfect. I'm still impressed, nonetheless. I'm
It's
impressed.
amazing.
Okay. Anyway, I'm about halfway through. Let's pick up on part 3 next month.
Good. That will be October 10th.
Okay, that'll work.
So, because we meet the second Thursday of every month for
Right.
free. Cornelius, thank you. This has been a terrific, exciting presentation.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Very
Anything
good.
else before we wrap it up?
That should do it.
Okay, then I will stop the recording.